And welcome to Talk of the Bay on Community Radio, K-Squid, KSQD, Santa Cruz, KSQT, Prunedale. I'm your host, Rachel Ann Goodman, and it's my pleasure to be here this evening to talk about a topic that is top of mind for many people who work in education and in libraries, and that is Banned Books Week. It is to bring attention to the process of many community members saying what we can and cannot read, and an organized effort to remove many books that happen to be by people of color and people and topics about gay rights. These are two areas that have been under target by censors, and the Banned Books Week is the American Libraries Association's organized effort to educate the public on how we can keep free and important information flowing to the public in a free society. All of that coming up right here on Talk of the Bay. My guest is Heather Norquist. She's Youth Programs Coordinator with the Santa Cruz Public Library System. Welcome, Heather. Thank you for being here on Talk of the Bay.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah. So what is Banned Books Week like and about for you?
Well, as a youth services librarian, it's about educating the public that freedom to read is really important for children and teens, just like everyone else. It's important for them to see themselves in books and to learn about people who are different from them in books and their experience, and to be able to choose the books that they read and the information that they can access.
And you have a separate section for kids and teens from the rest of the library, is that correct?
Yes.
That's in the main branch. Is that the same with all branches? There's sort of separate areas for different age groups?
Yeah, we really try for that in the smallest branches. Yeah, we do even in the smallest branches. We have a separate children's area and a little corner for teens.
So, in a way, this controversy is not new. People have been challenging and banning or attempting to ban books forever. You know, Ray Bradbury wrote about it in a fictional sense in Fahrenheit 459, is that what? Sorry, 57, whatever the temperature books burn at. But it was about censorship. Back then, that was in the 60s. So it's not new, but it seems to have really ramped up, you know, starting in like right after COVID. And in the movie, they talk about this transition from people who are mad about mask mandates and shutdowns, that they just like took those mad people and said, hey, here's something else you can be angry about. Your kids are being exposed to, you know, really mature material by these librarians. Did you see any of that at the local level here in Santa Cruz County?
We have still had very few requests to reconsider our collection, items in our collection, but when I was doing my homework for today, I did read that the American Library Association has recorded that since 2021, the numbers of challenges and book requests to remove books have increased up to now. This past year it was over 2,400, and before in 20, like all through the up until 2020, it was more like 243 unique titles. So that's a huge, huge expansion.
Like so many of these movements that appear to be grassroots, a lot of them are fomented by political operatives, and we've found through the movie that the researchers in the film who were journalists found that there's a lot of connections between what else is happening in the country and these book bans, that they're usually using the fear that parents might have that their children will be somehow corrupted in some way to inappropriate material, and turning those people toward voting toward right-wing candidates. A lot of these candidates got swept into office by the outrage politics of this issue. What are your thoughts? I mean, on one hand, as a parent, I can understand people always are concerned and want their children, want the best for their kids. But there have been some angry parents who just said, I only decide what my child reads, not the child, or not the school. So what are your thoughts, or not the library? So are there protected spaces where the First Amendment lives, and is a library one of them?
Well, we do agree that it's up to the parent to decide if they're going to regulate, or to know what their child is reading, and to decide what is okay for their child to read if they're a minor. Not necessarily, we don't encourage that, but it's not our role. It's not the library's role. It's the parent.
In Idaho, there was a law passed that said you couldn't go into a library alone as a teenager, even a 17 or 18-year-old, unless you were no longer a minor. But, all the way up to 17 and 3/4, you had to get a parent to go with you and approve your reading list. What about kids who want to stay in the closet to their parents? How do they navigate reading about people like them without having their parents involved?
Well, children 12 and over can have a library card and manage it on their own. So their parents should not be able to find out what they're reading.
So there's privacy
Yeah, there's
involved in the
privacy,
public
yeah.
library system.
Yeah.
I want to play a little bit of the audio trailer for Banned Books, which is Band Together, the name of the film. It's being screened in 3 different public libraries in Santa Cruz County. I have watched part of it. It's pretty compelling, interesting, because it's about teenagers advocating for their right to read. And so here's a little bit of the trailer.
But if you're fighting book bans, if you're fighting against censorship, then you are a freedom fighter. Human beings, Americans, people of all races, are not born freedom fighters. We do not choose to become freedom fighters. The freedom fight chooses us.
There's no coincidence that the rise in book bans coincides with the rise of Moms for Liberty.
Moms for Liberty can call themselves for liberty all they want, but they are still in the business of telling other people what they can and cannot do, can and cannot read, can and cannot think.
Should sound like freedom to me.
We are student activists from South Carolina, and we've been fighting on educational rights for the past few months. I think that from us doing this work and being advocates, it's really opened the door for our peers to also use their voice to fight for things that they believe in.
Free your mind and the rest will follow. Hold my own alone, I don't beg or borrow. It's the root of all evil, break your neck for a check, you flex on the day.
Just a little bit of the trailer of the Banned Books movie called Band Together, B-A-N-N-E-D. And that's screening in how many different libraries this week?
3, and tonight it's at the Capitola branch from 6:30 to 8:30. There's going to be a screening of the movie Band Together and a discussion afterwards.
Oh, it's great to have a discussion because there's a lot of issues that come up in this. What's really inspiring is these young people who are so articulate about what they want and why they feel like they want the right to read what they want to read. Especially one of the African American kids, or mixed race kids, says that she wants to read things about Black people, and there don't always have to be happy stories because there's a lot of unhappy stories, but she wants them uncensored, unedited. She wants to read about slavery. She wants to read about her own history. So they made some very powerful arguments about why they wanted the right to read these books that were being removed, and largely they were by authors of color. I mean,
yeah, it's really helpful to understand what other people are experiencing from their voice.
There were a lot of discussions in the movie about empathy.
Mm-hmm.
And what does reading have to do with empathy, or reading fiction in particular?
You just have access to all kinds of worlds that you may not otherwise be exposed to. You could read about someone's life on the other side of the world, or someone who is completely different gender orientation than you, and understand how they feel and how they experience the world.
Right. So you walk a mile in someone's shoes you never would even meet, probably yourself. Or it could be an imaginary character, too. They were also showing people actually burning books in South Carolina. That was a disturbing part of the film. I wasn't aware that, we were seeing literally people torching books like Harry Potter. It surprised me. I don't know, maybe it shouldn't have, but, I thought that Ray Bradbury book was fiction.
Yeah, I think Santa Cruz, we are lucky here.
We're in a bubble.
Yeah.
Yeah. And, I do respect parents' need to understand what their kids are reading, especially when they're young, and to decide what's age appropriate. But we're talking, these guys were all in their late teens. They were about to go off to college, and they were being deprived of certain books, about their ethnic identity or their gender identity that they weren't able to read. And they got some put back, I guess. I'm not going to give away the rest of the movie, but advocacy the other direction also seemed to be successful in Beaufort, which is a pretty bright red county. Yeah. But don't take advantage, don't take for granted that it's not happening here. I believe it was going on in Scotts Valley in one of the schools. So, yeah, it's not, we're not in a total bubble here. People do get hysterical about what they're told is in these books without a lot of these people who are complaining and wanting them banned or challenged hadn't read the books. They'd only read a rating system, which was made up by Moms for Liberty in the first place. So they decided to give it a bad rating, but their rating system was completely subjective, and they weren't professional educators at all. They just were a bunch of people decided what they thought was worth reading.
Yeah, that's another thing I read when I was researching this. 85% of the requests to ban books are from organized political movements. Only like 16% are from parents and 5% just from individuals.
The film starts out with a librarian. The librarians have really been thrust into a very different role than they probably thought they were going to be in, but it also makes sense that you would be defending the public's right to read.
Yeah, it's the basis of libraries. Free books, free information, free entertainment, free to learn whatever you want.
There's something magic, too, about them. I mean, when I went to the Berkeley Public Library as a kid, it was a vaulted, silent space with giant stacks of books, and it smelled like old books. And to know that there was just endless reading to be done in there was a magical experience, and nobody told me what to read or not to read. I got there myself, and it's a good feeling to have that agency when you're young. This is curious. I think I'll read this story. A lot of people started reading through Harry Potter books, and the fact that they were burning them seems astounding to me. Do you know why? Like what their complaint was about the Harry? They certainly weren't J.K. Rowling's anti-trans stance. That wasn't available knowledge back then.
Well, I read a few years ago it was because of witchcraft. They thought that there was witchcraft in those books.
Well, they were teaching them spells. But I don't think you can actually learn to be a witch. I mean, that's the funny thing. The other complaint in the movie was that if you read a book that had any mention of drug use, you were going to become a drug addict. That's so insulting to kids, I think, that somehow the reading of one book is going to suddenly make you copy the character. Usually they're cautionary tales, right? Like the one in the movie that they talked about, they were basically saying, get in the mind of someone who is a dissatisfied person who's angry, not so you can become like that, but because you can understand the mindset better and have empathy, if not sympathy, for the person. So, yeah. So we're going to take a short break and come right back to talk about Banned Books Week a little bit more. But I'm here with Howard Feldstein. He's our program director here at K-Squid. Heather, we're going to just take a break for just a second and get right back to our conversation. But first, we want an update from our wonderful program director about how we're doing and why this is the best time ever to become a member of K-Squid.
Well, we're halfway through our 8-day pledge drive. We call it the Octo Push. It's 8 days. It's in October. And it's 8 days a week of fundraising.
And it's Cephalopod Week. Did you know that?
I didn't know it until you told me.
Did you see the picture of Ringo Starr wearing a giant octopus shirt?
Oh, well.
I think he's a K-Squid subscriber.
We'd like to make it. We'd like to have him be one.
We would.
He could meet our $35,000 goal in one fell swoop. But
we did get someone from London calling in 2 days ago.
Oh, that's great.
Maybe it's him.
The music made him do it. We invite you to join them and call us at 831-900-5773 or contribute online, as most people do, ksqd.org. It's safe, secure. We're a non-commercial, non-profit radio station that depends solely on community support. We do not have government support or corporate advertising to run. So we're independent, fiercely independent, and proudly independent, able to talk about censorship and banned books and what's important to our listeners. And right now is also a great time because we have a challenge in place. An anonymous listener, we know who he is, but he wishes to remain anonymous on the air, is a generous donor, has been contributing, sustaining K-Squid since the beginning 7 years ago, and he's put $500 on the table right now to challenge all of our listeners to step forward and make their donation at 831-900-5773 or ksqd.org. Meet that challenge right now.
And you're listening to Talk of the Bay 5 days a week. We have this program on that covers local issues like how our local libraries are approaching censorship and book bans. And that's the conversation we're having just today. And a little bit later, we'll be hearing about a film about homelessness from one of our intrepid reporters, Andrew Schoenberg. We'll also take a trip up to the Redwoods, the Sequoia Light exhibit. Sequoias at Night will be a feature here on Talk of the Bay. That's the kind of thing we cover. We also cover politics and issues that relate to our lives right here around the Monterey Bay. Whatever the program you like, maybe you're a fan of the Hawaiian show or the Soul show, we have a lot to offer, and we're asking you to offer to us right now whatever amount of cash you can swing. We've heard from several people who gave generous donations, and maybe you can be the next person we thank as the program is in progress. The number again is 831-900-5773 or ksqd.org. There's a red button you can click. It takes a couple of minutes, and then you're on your way knowing you've helped community radio survive another day to fight on. And we're talking about censorship here. The Jimmy Kimmel thing is just one of the many things that happened where the public outcry overtook the political pressure. But, you know, Stephen Colbert got pulled off the air because he was critical of the Trump administration. We're in an era of censorship, and we have to fight back with all we have. This little radio station might seem small, but it reaches the whole Monterey Bay, and we constantly are getting requests to have people on and to be interviewed on our station. So we're growing, and the interest in what we provide is growing, but we can only do it with your help. So won't you be that next person we thank?
We also speak up for those organizations who are also feeling the pressure, economic pressure, defunding because the National Endowment for the Arts and the National Endowment for the Humanities, or et cetera, are being cut, slashed deeply, or besides funding, just threatened with political pressure. So we provide voices for all the various nonprofits, libraries and Planned Parenthood or immigration lawyers, folks like that, who are speaking up for others in our community and throughout the nation. Your contribution makes it possible for independent radio like K-Squid to thrive, really. We've been doing it thanks to your generosity since the beginning 7 years ago, and we want to keep doing it. Your contribution really matters right now at 831-900-5773 or ksqd.org. Let's help meet that $500 challenge right now.
That would be lovely. Thank you, and thank you, Howard. Back to our discussion about banned books. I'm here with Heather Norquist. She's the youth programming person at the Santa Cruz Public Libraries. Libraries themselves are enduring some cuts and some reductions in funding. It's a tough time for everyone because of all this federal money being taken away. How is it impacting the overall budget of libraries?
Well, I know in other places, in other states, it's been very bad in other parts of California. But here in Santa Cruz, our funding is from property tax and from sales tax, and so that the federal cuts haven't impacted us.
We're kind of in the same boat in a way because we didn't get those grants from the Corporation for Public Broadcasting, so they couldn't take it away or use it as a cudgel for us. On the other hand, we did get a service where they negotiated our music rights, and so we're not sure what's going to happen. We keep getting told it's going to be worked out, just be patient, but it's been a scary thing waiting to find out what our budget's going to be there. We certainly can't do it on our own. It would be prohibitive to do that. So I think everyone's feeling a little uneasy about what's happening, but I'm glad to hear the libraries are secure. And beyond banned books, what other kinds of educational things do you do to educate people, or what would you like to say to the public right now about supporting libraries? Why is it important? We often forget, that these are public spaces. There was an article recently that talked about harassment of staff there, that they're asking for help because that's an issue, that you guys are kind of besieged by social needs that maybe should have been taken up by other agencies. But there's a lot of pressure on libraries. Tell me a little bit more about what's going on.
Well, right now we're in the very beginning stages of our new strategic plan. And so I just wanted to say that now is the time if people want to help plan what we focus on for the next few years. We've had a survey out on our website, and you can still provide input on how you'd like our library to be, what we'd like to offer for the community. I just wanted to remind everyone that our vision for the library is inclusion, connection, and collaboration. And for kids and teens, that's a really important part of what we want to provide, is a safe space for teens and children where they can connect, where they can be working with our librarians who support them and encourage them in whatever they want to find out about or do. We're also all about early literacy, developing a love of reading in children, starting with babies all the way up to teens. All of our story times, our summer reading program, our special performances, they're all to nurture that love of reading.
We were blessed to have Billy Harris for a long time on our airwaves, and she used to do this children's story hour at the library.
Oh, I remember her.
She had a beautiful reading voice.
Yeah.
She would always say, "Are you sitting comfortably? Then I'll begin." And I didn't do a very good Billy Harris imitation, but I do remember she started every story hour like that. So getting kids to read must be still a challenge. As you're trying to defend books against bans, you're also trying to defend against YouTube obsessive scrolling. How do you balance those things in the inclusive? You want them to come to the library, but you also want them to read books. How do you walk that line in an era of ever more engrossing AI-driven algorithms and all that?
Well, when kids love books if they're good books, if they're good books for kids, and it's just so amazing and wonderful to see a group of kindergartners come to the library, or first graders, and they are so excited about picking out a book. And we don't have to do anything. We just need to let them into the beautiful new spaces we have and let them loose on the books, and they are so excited. I don't think that I think they get enough of the screen time in their lives that the library can be refreshing change.
It can be a refuge from all the overstimulating input that screens can provide. Well, that's a relief. I know a lot of adults use the libraries just because they don't have access to the internet, so there's that flip side. But for kids, like you're saying, it's a great place to feel safe and go into a fantasy world of fiction books. There's so much to offer. Also, it seems like libraries are becoming more community spaces, like gathering spaces, and the programming. I was just at an event last week that there was music, at the farmers market that was sponsored by the library, and it was in front of the library in the parking lot. So that was part of the library programming, among many other things you all do.
Yeah, that is one of the wonderful things we do. We have just maybe in the past 6 months started a monthly jazz series at the downtown branch, and we're partnering with a local community member, Betty Nadeau, to provide world-class jazz musicians for free. And those shows, the room is full, and it is wonderful.
What time is that usually?
That is usually at noon. I think it might be the first Friday of every month, but I would definitely check the library calendar.
There is so much on that calendar. It really shows a differing role that libraries are playing, that at least your library, of being a gathering place for community. And that's right along the lines of what we want to see and be part of, is making things happen where people can get out of their shells and mingle and enjoy each other's company, as well as cultural offerings like jazz. Wish we could run it live. That's another dream. You're listening to K-Squid's Talk of the Bay. I'm with Heather Norquist, the youth programmer on Banned Books Week. It is all this week, all over the country. Santa Cruz is participating, as is Monterey County and Salinas. Libraries are participating. Many of them are running a film called Banned Together, BANNED, about some teenagers who advocated for returning books to the shelves of their school library, and how they did that. It's an inspiring movie, I think, because it shows how if you speak out and you're articulate and you come to meetings, you can make a difference. If you stay home and just feel despair, it's much less likely you'll be heard. So, speak out for what you care about. And Heather, any final thoughts before we leave you about Banned Books Week or children and libraries? Anything important that we missed?
I was looking at some of the titles, the top 100 banned books, and so many of them, and also knowing that usually these bans are orchestrated by, organized movements, not children or parents. Why would you prevent children from reading books that they're so excited about? They're reading books, and some of the titles are the most popular titles in our library that are completely worn out because the kids, they check them out constantly. Like let me just say some of them: Captain Underpants.
That was banned.
Yeah, the Bone series, the Scary Stories series. Of Mice and Men, To Kill a Mockingbird, Bad Kitty. Why would you ban Bad Kitty?
Why would you ban Bunny, for that matter?
Yeah, Skippy John Jones, and the family books. So,
and wasn't there like a really young children's book, like about penguins, where they had two mothers?
Yeah,
and
Tango Makes Three. That's one of them too.
Yeah, so they had two daddies or something, and that was considered promoting gay lifestyle. The idea that a child would read a book and go, "Okay, Mom, I read a book, now I'm gay." That's so insulting to the kids' sensibilities and dignity, to assume that people are that easily swayed and indoctrinated, like just by reading one children's book. In a way, I think maybe it's overestimating the power of books. Books are powerful, don't get me wrong, but this discussion's been going on a long time. Which books are dangerous. And of course, we had this conversation around social media, which posts during COVID, that were giving out misinformation perhaps should have been taken down. Then that was called censorship by people who thought no matter what the opinion, however false, it should be out there. But that leaves us awash, in kind of junk. And that's a whole different topic, but it's intertwined in a way, because we haven't figured out how to navigate some of these tricky waters very well as a society. And I'm glad that libraries are standing up for the right to read for their patrons, since we pay our tax dollars to have a place where people can learn whatever they want. It also raises literacy for the general public, which is a good thing.
So important.
So important, yeah. Well, thanks for coming in and talking about Banned Books Week. I appreciate your time, Heather Norquist. Come back again sometime soon.
Thanks for helping us
All
share
right.
the word.
All right. Thank you so much. This is Rachel Ann Goodman. I'm here on Talk of the Bay, and we are going to go to an announcement and encourage you to make a pledge tonight.